So a few days ago, I got this video recommended to me on YouTube. And in case you've not seen it, this is the why I'm leaving Germany video. The video blew up, and when I got the recommendation of this video on my feed, I was like, wait a minute, I have to click on it and see why, you know, this young creator, I wouldn't know how old he is, but if I want to guess correctly, I'm going to say like early 40s. You know, given that I've also lived here for about 14 years, also in middle 40s, I'll be 45 in December. I felt like there's definitely going to be a lot of things that we share in common. And when he went ahead to say that he also is a self-employed, you know, having a business in Germany, I was like, yes, this is pretty much, you know, we have a lot in common. You know, I am here, I have family, he also has a family, he's married with kids. I am also married with kids, I have a business, and I have lived here for a very long time. So I kind of felt like I just needed to, you know, react to this video. You know, earlier on, I took some, you know, some notes, just listening to what he said to try to, but at some point, I felt to myself, this is not going to be necessary because, guys, this is something that we can just, you know, discuss, talk about, and share our opinions. And if you have, you know, any opinion to share, it would be great if you can go to the comment section, you know, let me know about it. See, I'm going to keep this video a little bit short because, first of all, it's kind of cold today, and I just have a little bit of time to quickly do this, and hopefully I should be able to get my thoughts, you know, across. All right. So in this video, this young man said he's leaving Germany because of so many reasons. You know, some of the reasons that he gave is that the system wasn't just rewarding, you know, creativity. And of course, he said so many times that this was just his own personal opinion. And not only that, he also talked about the fact that, you know, he just doesn't see any hope in the political and social, you know, life of this country right now. I mean, and he was also talking about things like, you know, the expensive social welfare system, and you do not get the kind of service that you pay for. If you pay a lot of money into the social, you know, healthcare system, one would have expected that you get prompt service. Not only that, you also get, you know, some level of, you know, quality. And he also talked about the fact that the infrastructural development here is pretty much a joke. And he said he was leaving Germany, you know, long story short, going to Spain to try to protect his family. And at the end of the day, they were just his own personal opinion. At least I forget, he also said the fact that there was so much bureaucracy when it comes to doing business here in Germany that most of the entrepreneurs, the business people, they spend a lot of time actually, you know, reporting back to the government organizations, whatever you want to call it, than actually, you know, doing their business. And this for him was just a no-no. He was fed up, and he didn't want to continue, you know, his stay here in Germany. It's kind of unfortunate, you know, for an adult to get to this point, you know, a point where you kind of give up on your country just because things doesn't work, you know. But then I'm going to be sharing my own, you know, little experience, and also kind of highlighting, you know, kind of comparing to the points that he raised. You know, I have a business here in Germany, and from my own experience, he is pretty much right, because there are just so many hurdles you have to pass through. You know, sometimes some of these hurdles, I kind of see them as very, very unnecessary. You know, there are so many hurdles that we, you know, have to pass through. Even when you sell on an online marketplace, there are just so many requirements, things you have to put in place. And some of them, honestly speaking, is just kind of inhibits you starting a business in the end, because you're going to make sure that you fulfill a lot of, you know, the legal requirements that at the end of the day, you'll be asking yourself, I'm not trying to do, you know, business in the level of Elon Musk. I'm just trying to buy and sell basic items. I'm just trying to buy used clothes and sell them. And because of that, you have to put a lot of stuff in place, and failure to do that might just, you know, cause you a lot of pain that you might not, you know, really expect. And then reporting back to the system, which is also what he talked about. Man, I feel like it's kind of a lot, you know, just doing your tax return alone takes a lot of time. You know, the document that you actually have to fill It's just a lot of stuff, and most of the things that you are being asked to fill and refill again, they are things that obviously should already be in the system of this organization. You know, you are asked again your name, your marital status, which is not a bad thing, but then your address, the kind of business you do, everything that you pretty much, you submitted, you are being asked again. And most times, every year is pretty much the same. And then when you think about the fact that even if you want to give this service, somebody or a small company to handle your tax return process, you are going to be so charged that at the end of the day, you do not even know which is better. Do you pay somebody to make your tax return, or just give the whole money to the tax man at the end? The encouragement for small businesses, this kind of small business loans, getting a place to even run your business as a small businessman. I mean, for me, I have not really seen that in place. Of course, I'm aware some people have a way of, assessing this kind of credit or this kind of loan, but I haven't seen that kind of stuff, because I would have expected that the small businesses being the heart of every country would, a lot would have been done to ensure that there's a lot more encouragement to these people, the entrepreneurs, people that have said, I want to put in the work. I want to be an employer of labor. I want to create jobs. I want to go the route of, building things with my hands and bringing it to the market. But what I see is like, you are kind of, encouraged to just go the traditional path of, going to school, getting a job. If you decide to want to do things on your own, man, there's just so many hurdles to cross. And I keep seeing people, over and over giving up on their dreams to actually build a business, because they do not see the need for them to keep grinding, keep putting in the work. At the end of the day, it's just a reporting process. You keep struggling, you do not really get money, and when you get, to finally get your business off the ground, it's just one cost or the other, kind of so many things just waiting to make sure that you do not succeed. But then people are still, trying their best to make sure that they succeed. It's kind of a lot. And for this young man to have said to himself, I don't think I want to continue to do this. I want to go where, at least for the level of work I am doing, the effort I'm putting in, I should be able to see, a lot of, reward. I wouldn't say that he's taking a bad decision, but I feel like, once again, this thing is pretty much not peculiar to Germany. If you look at it closely, I was in Croatia already, I was in Poland, and people there, they're also saying the same thing. So it's not just like peculiar to Germany. If you are going to leave your country just because it's kind of difficult to do business here, I wouldn't know how that's going to play out, because if you go to Spain or any other country, I want to imagine that there is going to be a situation that's going to be peculiar to that country also. If it were a bed of roses, I feel like everybody would have since left, and hopefully we've not seen the last of his videos. Perhaps in a few months from now, he'll be able to make an update video, giving us an update of what life has been, in Spain. And then talking about the technological developments, like he specifically mentioned the fact that the internet service here, especially when you go to the rural areas, is kind of appalling. That I will also say, yes, I have had a very good first-hand experience of this, because right now in my house, just not so far away from the city, I have very terrible internet. I have changed service providers like 2 or 3 times. It's the same thing. I constantly keep getting very low reception, and I do not know why that is so. I was expecting that, given the fact that we are in Germany here, with all the development, we should get at least a better level of internet, compared to, some other developing countries. Yeah, I have to struggle to use video calls sometimes. When I make WhatsApp calls, it keeps failing. It's a constant struggle to call my wife on WhatsApp or over the internet. And even when I have to call with, the mobile data, the mobile connection, it also doesn't work as it should. I'm talking about me using a very major service provider here, and it's not like I pay cheap money at the end of the month. We are being charged for this service, which is kind of bad. And for somebody like that kind of, works on the internet, has to contact his clients, not to have a very good internet might be a very, very major setback, and it could be very, very frustrating. If you never ever had a problem of having very bad internet connections, you may not be able to relate. But like I said, if you have gone through this whole process before, I have had problems, not once, not twice, with bad internet receptions, and I can pretty much tell you how difficult it can be at times. Of course, it's not the end of the world. There are ways to go around this, but why would you, have to, pay so much just to get a service that is pretty much like standard in other places? And if in Spain, he's able to get these things, pretty much easier, I wouldn't see why he may not consider, moving to Spain. Another issue he raised was the fact that getting an appointment, for medical stuff, I'm talking about you walking into, even then, I've had very bad experiences, going to, try to get an appointment with a doctor, and you just keep hearing things like, we are full, and you begin to ask yourself, how is it possible that in 2025, you just cannot walk into a doctor's, a hospital and get a normal appointment? I'm talking about you being served immediately. Of course, nobody's going to do that for you, even in Spain. But I'm talking about a realistic appointment with a doctor, not, being told that you go, you present a case, or you call a particular, let's say, an orthopedic doctor, and you tell them that you have a pain on your hand, and then you are being told to come after 4 weeks, sometimes after 5 weeks, to get like a visit. I'm wondering, hey, somebody has called you and said, look, I have a pain on my hand, and why do you have to wait for 5 weeks, to come? What if it's a serious thing? What if it's something that needs urgent attention? I do not understand it myself, but we have just become used to this, that whenever we have to see a doctor, you really have to plan ahead. You have to plan ahead. But then when somebody is self-employed, and when you consider the fact that you are paying a lot, he said he did start with about 900 euros or something like this, but right now, this is going to be increased. And if the quality of service is not really increasing, and you still have to pay so much, you still have to wait so long to get a doctor's appointment, I feel like this could be really, really frustrating, especially for somebody fighting hard, tooth and nail to be self-sustaining. He's not trying to go the traditional route of having a job, trying to just build things on his own. You have to deal with the internet problem. You have to deal with the fact that, it's very hard to even get quality service, from the hospitals, and you have to deal with the bureaucratic, nature of the system, where, you keep moving papers here and there for no reason, so to say. There are so many things that could just be done easily. I could easily just process my bookkeeping and set up my business, but it has to just be, so much complication, so much, emails, so much letters sent back and front, so much approvals. I can relate to what this young man is saying, but then if he is talking about the fact that there might be a country where things might be pretty much easier, I can understand why he has decided, to go this route. And of course, the taxing situation is a known fact that, yes, we also pay a lot of tax here. People pretty much just work, and your income somehow just get divided by 2. You kind of just pay half of what you earn in the way of tax. And when you consider the fact that, the services or what you get in return is not really commensurate to the kind of, the heavy taxing you are paying, it can also lead to frustration. You see, if you want to get a house now, it's very difficult to get a house, at least in the region where I live, get a house from the state that you can easily access as a taxpayer. No, you have to look for a private individual that has a house or a property. And I do not know where I live. At the moment, we are actually looking for a house right now, and it's been a lot of fight. There are no offerings, and the few offerings that you have, they are pretty much coming from private homes, and you do not want to know how much these people are asking for. For a 3-bedroom apartment, people are pretty much asking for about 1,600 euros, 1,700 euros, if you are actually lucky to get it. And the government, I do not see projects going on to take care of these low-income earners, a very big project that the low-income earners can actually, pay into and get at least a decent 2 rooms, 3 rooms for themselves, for their family to just exist. These things, when it becomes a lot, everything keeps piling up, it could just get to a point where somebody will say, you know what, I am leaving Germany, and this might be what this young man is passing through. But then I don't want to drag this video too much. I want to know what you think. If you live in Germany, please go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. If there will be a need for me to, talk more on this particular video, I will be open to do that. You guys just let me know in the comment section. But for me, I'm still here with my family, still being very hopeful, grateful for the opportunities that we have, even though it might not be the best. But yes, of course, I am grateful, and I keep pushing on every day, putting in the work, doing the things I have to do to make sure that everything goes peacefully until I see you guys in the next video. Peace.